Swat, Hanatmanbo Ishtam, Shrum Swat, Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, Namaste Tejase, Avid Baba, Vajrana Kavajram Sakamashin, Tandiya, Hanatmanbo Ishtam, Shrum Swat.
In 1960, Swami Krishnananda Saraswati took the Ramayana to Ethiopia to gift it to the ruler, Haile Selassie. But the king wasn't impressed at all. He looked at the Ramayana and said, "I've already read this book, and every child in my country knows this story." Swami Krishnananda was shocked and wondered if the king was confusing the Ramayana with some other book. Just as he was thinking this, the next words from the king left Swamiji completely stunned.
"Hey, O Sage Maharaj, we ourselves are descendants of Kush, the son of Lord Ram."
We know about the colonial connection between Africa and India, like how Mahatma Gandhi led the Satyagraha in South Africa in 1920, or how Indian traders and laborers went to South Africa for farming. But when Haile Selassie says we are descendants of Ram, that sounds like a huge claim. Is it really true that Africans are descendants of Shri Ram? If yes, then why don't they call themselves Hindus? And how did the Ramayana reach 5,000 kilometers away from India to Africa? If all this is true, then why isn't it mentioned in our history books? Why not? Or maybe the whole story just needed to trace every detail on WhatsApp. In all the African countries where Hindus live today, when did they start living there? When was the first time they went there? And what was the reason for their move to Africa? But there was a big challenge in all this research. With such a huge continent, where do we even start? There are 54 countries, and checking each one seemed totally impossible. But there is one African country that has a very unique connection with Swami Krishnananda Saraswati, and it's not the most recent Hindu presence either. The most interesting country is interesting because the original African Hindus here actually outnumber the Indian Hindus living in Ghana. In fact, Hinduism is the fastest growing religion in Ghana, but this growth isn't because of Indian immigrants. It's because the original Ghanaians themselves are adopting Sanatan Dharma in large numbers. But why? Sanatan Dharma doesn't have missionaries, nor do people get paid to become Hindus. The real reason behind this growth is Ghanananda Saraswati, the first Hindu in Ghana. Before this, there were no Hindus at all, so where did they get the inspiration for Hinduism from? After all, he was born into a Christian family. As for Quasi Asal, this little Quasi had a big problem since childhood. He asked way too many questions. These questions were about the mysteries of the universe, creation, and its creator. But in Abrahamic faiths, there isn't much room for Q&A to answer Quasi Asal's questions. Then Quasi gets exposed to a pagan culture where questioning there's a lot of emphasis on asking questions. Even after reading many books on Hindu philosophy, Quasi's curiosity just wouldn't die down. Now, if he were an ordinary person, he would have stopped there and gotten busy with his daily routine. After all, what else do you really need besides food, clothes, and a house? But when someone's bitten by the bug of seeking truth, their vision goes beyond all that. That's why Casey set off towards India, the birthplace of Sanatan Dharma, the land of seekers. He ended up at Swami Krishnananda Saraswati Ji's ashram in Rishikesh. At that time, Swami Krishnananda Saraswati was the General Secretary of Divine Life Society. Coming under his guidance, not only did Coco get answers to his questions, but after intense penance, he also took initiation and became Swami Ghanananda Saraswati. To spread the teachings of Sanatan Dharma, Swami Ghanananda returned to Ghana and established the African Hindu monastery and Ghana's first Hindu temple in the capital, Accra. This temple became not just a major hub for Sanatan Dharma, but also a big symbol of brotherhood, where not only Hindus but Christians too gathered.
Om Shri Swaha, Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, Namaste Tejase, Avid Avid Baba, Vajrana Kavajram Sakamashin, Kandiya Randiya, Om Shri Swaha, Om Shri Swaha.
Muslims also used to visit. One of them, Jamar Barad, while maintaining his Islamic faith, regularly visits this temple. He says, I know that idol worship is forbidden in Islam, but the truth is, God doesn't discriminate. I feel peace when I come to this temple. That's why I come here. In Ghana, I didn't find any traces of Hinduism older than this, so my research goes deep into Haile Selassie's statement to explore an African country where Hinduism is comparatively very old. But the reason isn't because of any Swami. Actually, the British in 1834 passed the Slavery Abolition Act, which completely banned slavery in all their colonies around the world. But this caused a problem for British farmers because now they had to pay for labor. They had to set fixed working hours, whereas under slavery, they could make slaves work up to 18 hours straight for free. When the British raised this issue with the government came up with a new rule that gave birth to what's called endangered labor or bonded labor. Bonded labor refers to a person who can't repay a loan and has to work off the debt through their labor. These workers often work without pay for a specified number of years, and once that time is up, they are freed. After that, a large number of bonded laborers were brought from India to the British African colonies for farming and related activities. Once their labor contracts ended, they were promised land to settle on and full freedom to practice their religion. At that time, South Africa was divided into 4 colonies: the Orange River, Natal, Cape, and Transvaal. Among these, Natal saw the highest number of Indian laborers arriving. Even today, Durban City in this area has the largest population of Indian origin people. Besides laborers, Indian teachers, traders, and artisans also started coming from India to Natal, looking for better opportunities despite the expenses. Despite racial discrimination, this Indian community, through hard work, gradually became part of the local elite communities, and Hindu cultural practices began to flourish there. But then something strange came up while researching this region, and we found out. So this whole thing about Indian traders, Indian laborers, and craftsmen coming to South Africa didn't actually start because of British rule. Surprisingly, Indians were here even before the British arrived. Who were these Indians? This is the Swahili coast of Africa, and there's something unique about their language. Can you guess what these Hindi words would be in Swahili? There's no difference, neither in the words nor in their meanings. For example, Sanskrit's Simha became Simba, and Dar es Salaam turned into Dar Salam. These similarities exist because of the connections between Indian and Persian traders and sellers who started coming to the eastern coast for trade as early as the 11th century. Many of them settled here and married local women. Because of this, even today, Swahili people carry Indian and Persian traits. Thanks to strong trade activities between the Swahili coast and India for hundreds of years, the currency on the Swahili coast was called the rupee. During British times, the Indian rupee used in India was also used here for transactions until 1906, when it was replaced by the East African rupee. But India influenced mainly in language, and currency wasn't given to Africa. Tanzania's national dish is pilau. On the East Coast, one of the most popular dishes is biryani. Every home here makes chapati, and just like in North India, samosas are the most popular snack. The Hindu and Jain communities here are called Banya, which comes from the word Banya. India and Indians gave Swahili culture its identity and character. But in this same region, there's a country that Indians have given a lot to, yet all they got in return was discrimination and betrayal. They needed 18,964 skilled workers, but these weren't available locally. That's why the British brought in 40,000 skilled Indians to migrate. The project ended in 1902, and some Indians stayed back. Being highly skilled, these Indians got involved in the administration and businesses there, and they saw rapid growth. As the Indian community became more affluent, even more Indians started migrating from India to Uganda. This Indian community set up their businesses, and in just 60 years, Indians contributed to 90% of Uganda's economy. Basically, 90% of Uganda was run by Indians. The economy was being run by Indians, but this growth hit a big roadblock in 1971 when Uganda's General Idi Amin took power through a military coup. General Amin didn't like the dominance of Indians and started discriminating against them during his rule. Finally, in 1972, what had been happening to Hindus for the last 1,000 years happened again. The general gave Indians just 3 months to leave Uganda. This was basically an economic war and economic jihad, after which around 80,000 Indians had to leave Uganda. After taking over, the general transferred all the Indians' properties and businesses to his supporters so that the profits would go to them. But that didn't happen. Uganda didn't have the talent or experience, so the businesses that Indians had been running successfully and profitably for decades fell into heavy debt within just a few months. This directly impacted Uganda's economy, which completely collapsed. Later, Uganda realized its mistake, and after 20 years asked the Indians to come back and reclaim their properties. They promised to bring them back, but the Hindus never returned in large numbers. Because of this, my team felt that all the research done on Uganda was a waste of time. That's when I came across this photo. This is Mami Wada. She's known in about 20 African countries and 50 African cultures. If you look closely, her symbols and association with water are very similar to Nag Chandra, and her characteristics are just like Mahadev's. This isn't just a coincidence. The African god of war, Ogun, has traits that match Kartikeya or Murugan Swami. Similarly, in Egypt, and the description and characteristics of the North African goddess Isis are similar to those of goddess Kali. Francis Wilford, a prominent 19th century Indologist and Orientalist who extensively researched Indian history, mentioned that Ethiopia is referenced multiple times in Sanskrit texts. This highlights a major problem for us Indians. We've been searching all over Africa for answers, but never once looked towards our own Indian scriptures and books. This is from the first page of the second chapter of the second part of the Vishnu Purana, featuring a conversation between the sage and the sage Maitri. He's explaining that the world was divided into 7 parts: Jambu Island, Palash Island, Salam Island, Kush Island, Crouch Island, Shak Island, and Pushkar Island. North Africa and the Arabian regions were called Kush Island. Interestingly, around 2000 BC, the areas in Africa referred to as Kush Island in the ancient texts were home to the Kush Empire. Descendants from this empire later helped lay the foundations for the Egyptian kingdom, the Romans, Ethiopia, and the Greek Empire. While researching the India and Kush Empire, we found a book that answered many of our questions. Let's find out what's written inside. In Volume 1, there's some mind-blowing evidence about the relationship between India and Ethiopia. Biologist Thomas Henry Huxley said that the Kush and Indian Dravidians belong to a similar race, and this race ruled an empire stretching from India all the way to Spain. Ancient Greek texts describe the Ethiopian Empire as the empire located between the Indus and the Ganges rivers. Just like Lord Shiva's bull Nandi, the Egyptian god Osiris also had a bull as his mount. Here's what's said about them. Back then, no one was supposed to disrespect the bull. It was a symbol representing us. Any offense against the bull was seen as an insult to us. That's why the sacred animals were respected like gods, and hurting any bull in Egypt meant death. D.D. Houston explained in his book that the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses were actually the deities, great sages, and kings from India and Kush. Around 600 BC in the Bactria Empire, which was a successor state to the Kush Empire, Indra was known as the god of storms, Agni as the god of fire, and Soma as the god of intoxication. This connection existed between India and Africa. Similarities in cultural roots can be found in the texts of many Greek authors. The ancient Greek teacher Philostratus wrote in his book Life of Apollonius that the Indians are the wisest of mankind, Ethiopia is a colony of theirs, and they inherit the wisdom of their fathers. In other words, Ethiopians are a colony established by Indians. When Megasthenes came to Chandragupta Maurya's court, he wrote in his book Indica that the cities of Daman and Diu were under their control, and slavery didn't exist in India. He said, they don't have locks on their doors. In fact, no Indian ever knew the need to lock their doors. When Blameless Thaplia Old de Swami Krishnananda Saraswati did more research on the Kushat people of Haile, he found that the Ethiopians originally considered themselves descendants of a king named Kush, who was the son of a king named Ham. This is also mentioned in the Bible.
Swami Krishnananda Saraswati explained that this king was initially known as Raham, who is later become Ham. So, many ancient philosophers believed that the Kush were descended of Indians, while others thought that Indians are descended of Kush. But one thing is clear: both share a common origin. Shared heritage has always been there, and both cultures come from Sanatan Dharma. Maybe that's why Hinduism was become the fastest growing religion in Africa today.